The steam whistle pierced the dry California air as the train pulled into Stockton's modest station on a sweltering afternoon in July 1883. And Amelia Drake stepped onto the platform with a face so pale and eyes so haunted that several waiting passengers instinctively turned away from her grief. She clutched a small carpetbag in one hand and a crumpled telegram in the other, the paper worn thin from constant folding and unfolding during her 3-week journey from Philadelphia. The telegram bore news that had shattered her world just 5 days before her intended wedding, informing her that her fiancé Thomas had been found in a compromising position with her own cousin, and that the wedding would not proceed. Rather than face the humiliation and pitying glances of everyone she knew, Amelia had used her would-be honeymoon ticket to flee west, choosing the farthest destination she could afford. The platform buzzed with activity as ranch hands loaded supplies onto wagons, families reunited with arriving relatives, and merchants hawked their wares to weary travelers. Amelia stood frozen amid the chaos, suddenly aware that she had no plan beyond escaping Philadelphia. She had enough money for perhaps 2 weeks of modest lodging, and then what? The reality of her impulsive decision crashed over her like a wave, and she felt her knees begin to buckle. A strong hand steadied her elbow and a deep voice asked, "Madam, are you all right? You look about ready to collapse in this heat." Amelia turned to find herself looking up at a tall man in his mid-20s, with sun-bronzed skin, dark brown hair that curled slightly at his collar, and eyes the color of the summer sky. He wore the practical clothes of a working rancher, his hat pushed back to reveal a concerned expression that seemed genuinely kind rather than merely polite. "I am quite well, thank you," Amelia managed to say, though her voice trembled. "Just fatigued from the journey." "That train ride from the east is no small thing," the man said, not releasing her arm until he was certain she was steady. "I am Bennett Nash. My family owns a cattle ranch about 10 miles north of town. Are you being met by someone?" The simple question brought tears to Amelia's eyes before she could stop them. She blinked rapidly, mortified at crying in front of a stranger. "No, I have no one expecting me. I simply needed to go somewhere far away." Bennett's expression shifted from concern to something deeper, a recognition of pain that suggested he understood running from something. "Well, you cannot just stand here on the platform. Have you secured lodging?" Amelia shook her head, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. The weight of the past weeks, the betrayal, the hasty flight, and now the uncertainty of her future all pressed down on her at once. "I thought I would inquire at a hotel, but honestly, I do not know what I am doing here or anywhere." "Come on," Bennett said gently. "Let me get you to the boarding house. Mrs. Patterson runs a respectable place for ladies, and she will feed you something proper. Then you can rest and figure out your next steps with a clear head." Amelia knew she should refuse, should insist on managing on her own, but she was too tired and too broken to summon the strength. She simply nodded and allowed this stranger to take her bag and guide her toward a wagon parked along the dusty street. As they walked, she noticed other women watching with interest, and she wondered what they thought seeing Bennett Nash escorting a tear-stained woman from the train station. The boarding house proved to be a tidy 2-story building with a wraparound porch and cheerful yellow curtains in the windows. Mrs. Patterson, a round woman in her 50s with shrewd but kind eyes, took one look at Amelia and ushered her inside without asking questions. Bennett spoke quietly with the landlady for a moment, and Amelia caught him pressing several bills into the woman's hand. "Sir, you cannot pay for my lodging," Amelia protested, finding her voice. "I have my own money." "Consider it a loan then," Bennett said easily, "or a welcome gift to Stockton. Either way, you need rest more than you need pride right now, Miss Drake. Amelia Drake. Miss Drake, you rest now. I will be in town tomorrow if you need anything, and Mrs. Patterson will look after you." He tipped his hat to both women and left before Amelia could protest further. Mrs. Patterson showed Amelia to a small but clean room on the second floor, with a window overlooking a vegetable garden. "That Bennett Nash is one of the good ones," the landlady said as she set fresh towels on the washstand. "His family has been in these parts since before the gold rush. Lost his mother 3 years back, and it about broke his heart. He understands when someone is hurting." Amelia sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress surprisingly comfortable. "He seems very kind, but I cannot accept his charity. I will repay him as soon as I find employment." "Employment, Mrs. Patterson's eyebrows rose. "What kind of work are you seeking?" "I was a schoolteacher in Philadelphia," Amelia said. "I have my teaching certificate and good references, or at least I did before." She trailed off, unwilling to explain the scandal that had sent her fleeing west. "Before whatever broke your heart," Mrs. Patterson finished gently. "Well, Stockton has a schoolhouse, but I believe the position is filled for the coming term. However, there are other opportunities for an educated woman if you are willing to work. The telegraph office sometimes needs operators, and some of the merchants need help with their books. Then there are the ranches, always needing someone who can read and write to help manage accounts." Amelia nodded, though the thought of facing people and trying to rebuild her life felt overwhelming. "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. Right now, I simply want to wash the train dust away and sleep." "Of course, dear. There is water in the pitcher, and I will bring up some supper in a few hours. You take all the time you need." After the landlady left, Amelia finally allowed herself to collapse on the bed fully. She pulled the crumpled telegram from her pocket one last time, reading the devastating words. "Thomas Whitmore and Julia Drake announced their engagement today. Your wedding gifts are being returned. Mother says you have disgraced the family by fleeing. Do not return." Signed by her younger sister Margaret, who at least had the decency to warn her. The betrayal still felt like a knife twisting in her chest. She had loved Thomas, or thought she did. They had courted for 2 years, and he had seemed devoted to her. How long had he been involved with her cousin Julia? Had their entire relationship been a lie? And her family siding with Julia despite the betrayal hurt almost as much as Thomas's infidelity. Amelia tore the telegram into tiny pieces and threw them into the wash basin. She was done looking back. Whatever happened next, she would face it as a new person in a new place. Philadelphia and everyone in it could forget she existed, just as she would forget them. She washed her face and hands, changed into a nightdress, and crawled under the quilt despite the afternoon heat. Within minutes, exhaustion pulled her into a dreamless sleep. When Amelia woke, the room was dark except for a shaft of moonlight through the window. A covered tray sat on the small table, and she realized Mrs. Patterson must have brought supper while she slept. Amelia's stomach growled fiercely, reminding her that she had barely eaten during the final days of travel. The meal proved simple but delicious. Cold chicken, fresh bread, butter, sliced tomatoes from the garden, and a jar of milk. Amelia ate every bite, feeling strength slowly returning to her body. As she ate, she gazed out the window at the unfamiliar stars and the dark shapes of buildings against the night sky. Somewhere out there, Bennett Nash was probably sleeping in his ranch house, unaware of how his simple kindness had been the first gentle thing to happen to her in weeks. The next morning, Amelia woke with the sun and dressed in one of her simpler gowns, a practical navy blue that would not show dust. She braided her dark blonde hair and pinned it up, then went downstairs to find Mrs. Patterson serving breakfast to 3 other boarders, all women who worked in various shops in town. "Miss Drake, you have better color today," Mrs. Patterson said approvingly. "Sit down and have some breakfast. Girls, this is Miss Amelia Drake from Philadelphia. She is new to Stockton." The other women greeted her with friendly curiosity, and Amelia found herself relaxing slightly as they chatted about the town, the weather, and local gossip. She learned that Stockton was a growing town that served as a supply point for the surrounding ranches and farms. The gold rush had brought initial prosperity, and now agriculture kept the economy strong. "If you are looking for work," one woman named Sarah said, "you might try the newspaper office. Mr. Henderson was complaining last week that he needed help setting type and managing subscriptions." "Or the hotel," another woman suggested. "They always need respectable women for the front desk." Amelia thanked them for the suggestions and spent the morning walking around town, getting her bearings and inquiring about positions. By noon, she had applications pending at 3 different establishments and had been told the school board would be meeting next week to discuss possibly adding an assistant teacher position. She was walking back toward the boarding house when she heard her name called. Bennett Nash rode up on a beautiful chestnut mare, his easy smile brightening his face. "Miss Drake, you look much recovered," he said, dismounting smoothly. "How are you finding Stockton?" "Better than I expected," Amelia admitted. "It is quite different from Philadelphia, but everyone has been welcoming. I have been inquiring about employment. Any luck? Some possibilities, nothing certain yet." She hesitated, then said, "Mr. Nash, I want to thank you properly for your kindness yesterday. You quite literally kept me from collapsing, and paying for my lodging was far more than any stranger should do." "I would have done the same for anyone in need," Bennett said, but his eyes lingered on her face in a way that suggested she was not just anyone to him. "Though I confess I am glad you are staying in Stockton rather than moving on. We can always use good people here." "I am not sure I qualify as good people right now," Amelia said before she could stop herself. "I am running away from my problems rather than facing them, which is cowardly." Bennett's expression turned serious. "There is a difference between running away and making a strategic retreat. Sometimes you need distance from a situation before you can heal from it." He paused, seeming to debate with himself, then continued. "Listen, I know we barely know each other, but my father is looking for someone to help manage the ranch accounts and teach my younger sister. Catherine is 14 and bright as anything, but since my mother died, her education has been neglected. The ranch is too far from town for her to attend school daily. If you are interested, the position comes with room and board plus a fair wage. It would give you stability while you figure out what you really want to do." Amelia stared at him, surprised by the offer. "You would trust a stranger to live on your property and teach your sister?" "I am a pretty good judge of character, and I trust you," Bennett said simply. "You are educated, clearly from a good family despite whatever sent you running, and Catherine needs a woman's influence. My father and I do our best, but a 14-year-old girl needs more than 2 ranchers can provide. At least come out and meet them before you decide. Let me give you a ride out tomorrow morning." The offer was almost too perfect, which made Amelia suspicious. "Why would you do this for someone you just met?" Bennett met her eyes steadily. "Because someone did something similar for me once when I needed it. 3 years ago, after my mother passed, I was drowning in grief and neglecting the ranch. A neighboring rancher named Samuel Porter showed up one morning and worked alongside me for 3 months, never asking for anything, just being there until I could function again. He told me to pass the kindness forward when I got the chance. So that is what I am doing." The honesty in his voice convinced Amelia more than any elaborate explanation could have. she found herself nodding. "All right, I will come meet your family, but I make no promises beyond that." "Fair enough. I will pick you up at 8 tomorrow morning." Bennett tipped his hat and remounted his horse, riding off with a wave. Mrs. Patterson was hanging laundry when Amelia returned, and the landlady grinned knowingly when Amelia explained about the potential job. "The Nash family is good people, dear. The father, William Nash, is honest as the day is long. And that Bennett has been one of the most eligible bachelors in the county for 2 years now, though he has not shown interest in courting anyone. All the local girls have tried, believe me." "I am not interested in courtship," Amelia said firmly. "My heart is too broken for that, and I have no intention of trusting another man with it. I simply need employment." "Of course, dear Mrs. Patterson said, but her eyes sparkled with amusement that suggested she did not quite believe Amelia's protests. That night, Amelia lay awake trying to decide if accepting the position, assuming it was truly offered after meeting the family, was wise. Living on a ranch would mean isolation from town and depending entirely on the Nash family. Yet it also meant safety, stability, and time to heal away from prying eyes. She thought of Bennett's kind face, his steady presence, and found herself wanting to trust him despite her determination never to trust a man again. The next morning dawned clear and hot, promising another scorching July day. Amelia dressed in her most practical traveling dress and met Bennett promptly at 8. He helped her up onto the wagon seat with a hand that was calloused from ranch work, but gentle in its grip. The ride to the Nash ranch took nearly an hour, following a well-worn road through rolling grassland dotted with oak trees. In the distance, cattle grazed in large herds, their brown and white bodies moving slowly in the heat. Bennett pointed out landmarks and told her about the ranch's history, how his grandfather had claimed the land in 1852 and built it into one of the most successful cattle operations in San Joaquin County. "We run about 1,500 head now," Bennett explained, "plus some horses. It is a good living, but it takes constant work. My father is getting older, and he cannot manage everything himself anymore. That is why I came back from college rather than pursuing law like I planned." "You wanted to be a lawyer?" Amelia asked, surprised. "Studied at University of California for 2 years," Bennett said. "But when my mother died, my father needed me. Family comes first always." Amelia heard no bitterness in his voice, only acceptance, and she respected him for it. "Do you ever regret giving up your plans?" "Sometimes," Bennett admitted. "But mostly I am content. The ranch is in my blood, even if I thought I wanted something different. And being here means I can look after my father and sister, which matters more than any fancy career." The ranch house came into view as they crested a small hill, a sprawling structure of wood and stone with a wide porch and several outbuildings scattered around it. Chickens scratched in a yard, and a large vegetable garden flourished near what appeared to be a bunkhouse for ranch hands. Everything looked well-maintained and prosperous, a testament to the Nash family's hard work. A man who could only be Bennett's father stepped onto the porch as they approached. William Nash was in his 50s, with the same strong build as his son but hair gone gray and a face weathered by decades of sun and wind. His smile was welcoming as he helped Amelia down from the wagon. "Miss Drake, welcome to the Nash Ranch. Bennett told me about meeting you, and I am pleased you agreed to visit." "Thank you for having me, Mr. Nash," Amelia said, instinctively smoothing her skirts. "Come inside out of this heat. Catherine is eager to meet you, though I warn you she is skeptical about the whole idea of a teacher. She has gotten used to running a bit wild." The interior of the house was cooler, with thick walls and strategically placed windows that caught the breeze. The furnishings were simple but comfortable, clearly chosen for practicality rather than fashion. Amelia noticed small feminine touches, a vase of wildflowers, embroidered cushions, that suggested a woman's hand despite Bennett's mother being gone for 3 years. A girl appeared in the doorway of what looked like the kitchen, regarding Amelia with open suspicion. Catherine Nash had her brother's dark hair and her father's gray eyes, and she stood with her arms crossed defensively. She wore trousers and a boy's shirt, her feet bare despite the rough wooden floors. "Catherine, this is Miss Drake," William said gently. "Remember your manners." "Hello," Catherine said flatly. "I suppose you are here to make me wear dresses and learn needlework." Amelia met the girl's challenging stare calmly. "Actually, I am here to see if we would suit each other as teacher and student. As for dresses and needlework, you can wear what you like and learn what you choose within reason. But if you are going to forego traditional education, you should at least know what you are rejecting." Catherine's eyes narrowed with interest. "You do not think girls must learn to be proper ladies?" "I think girls must learn to use their minds and think critically," Amelia said. "Being a proper lady is useful in certain circumstances, but being educated and capable is useful in all circumstances." For the first time, Catherine's expression softened slightly. "What would you teach me?" "What do you want to learn?" The girl considered this. "Mathematics, so I can manage the ranch accounts someday. History, because Bennett says you cannot understand the present without knowing the past. And reading, the kind that matters, not silly novels." "I can teach you all of that," Amelia said. "Though I would argue that some novels are not silly at all. Shakespeare wrote plays that teach us about human nature. Dickens shows us social injustices. Austen explores how women navigate a world designed to limit them." Catherine uncrossed her arms, clearly intrigued despite herself. "All right, maybe you are not what I expected." William laughed. "High praise from Catherine, Miss Drake. Now, let me show you the rest of the house and explain what the position would entail." Over the next hour, Amelia learned that she would have her own room in the house, teach Catherine 4 hours each day, 5 days a week, and spend an additional 2 hours helping William organize the ranch accounts and correspondence. Sundays would be free, and Bennett would drive her into town every Saturday if she wished to go. The wage offered was more than generous, certainly more than she would earn in town. "Why are you offering so much?" Amelia asked William when they were alone in the study. "You could find someone locally for less." William regarded her thoughtfully. "Bennett told me something about your circumstances, that you came west to escape heartbreak. I respect that you are trying to rebuild your life rather than surrendering to despair. This ranch has been a place of healing for my family. Maybe it can be that for you too. As for the wage, you will earn every penny. Catherine is brilliant but stubborn, and our books are a mess. I am offering what the job is worth." Amelia felt tears prick her eyes at his kindness, so different from the cold judgment she had faced in Philadelphia. "I accept your offer, Mr. Nash. When would you like me to start?" "Next Monday gives you time to settle your affairs in town. Bennett will help you move your things." They shook hands, and Amelia felt the first spark of hope she had experienced since receiving that terrible telegram. Maybe she could build a new life here, far from the ruins of the old one. On the ride back to town, Bennett was quiet, letting Amelia process her thoughts. "Finally," she said, "your sister is remarkable." "She is," Bennett agreed. "But she needs guidance. After our mother died, Catherine rejected everything feminine, as if being a woman was what killed our mother. She cannot accept that sometimes people just die, that it was not my mother's gender that took her but a fever that came on sudden and strong." "She is protecting herself from vulnerability," Amelia observed. "If she refuses to be traditionally feminine, She thinks she can avoid the pain your mother experienced. Can you help her see that she can be strong and still be herself? Bennett asked. I worry about her growing up so angry at the world. I can try, Amelia said. Though I must warn you, I am not exactly a model of emotional health at the moment. My own heart is quite thoroughly broken. Bennett glanced at her. Do you want to talk about it? Amelia found that she did, surprisingly. Perhaps because Bennett was essentially a stranger, someone who had no connection to her past life. I was engaged to be married. 5 days before the wedding, I discovered my fiancé had been having an affair with my cousin. When I confronted them, my family sided with them, saying I must have driven him to it by being too educated, too independent. They said I had always been difficult, so I used my honeymoon ticket and came west. They are fools, Bennett said flatly. And your former fiancé is a fool twice over for not recognizing what he had. You do not know me well enough to say that. I know you were brave enough to start over alone in a strange place. I know you spoke to Catherine like she was a thinking person rather than a problem to be fixed. That tells me plenty. Amelia felt warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she barely recognized as hope. You barely know me, yet you keep showing me extraordinary kindness. Why? Bennett was quiet for a long moment, guiding the horses around a rut in the road. Finally, he said, honestly. Because when I saw you on that train platform, looking so lost and broken, I saw myself 3 years ago. And I thought maybe I could help you the way Sam Porter helped me. Plus, there was something about you, even in your grief, that made me want to know you better. I am not looking for romance, Amelia said quickly. I may never be ready for that again. I am not asking for romance, Bennett replied gently. I am offering friendship. If something more develops over time, well, we can address that if it happens. But right now, you need people who care about you without demanding anything in return. So that is what I am offering. Amelia nodded, grateful for his understanding. They spent the rest of the ride discussing practical matters like what books she should bring for teaching Catherine, and what the weather was like during winter in the Central Valley. The following week passed quickly. Amelia gave notice at the boarding house, thanked Mrs. Patterson profusely for her kindness, and purchased a few practical items for ranch life, including sturdy boots and a wide-brimmed hat. She also visited the small lending library and borrowed several books suitable for teaching. On Monday morning, Bennett arrived with the wagon to collect her and her modest belongings. The ride to the ranch felt different this time, less like visiting and more like going home. The realization startled Amelia that she could already think of the Nash Ranch as home after only one visit. Catherine met them on the porch, still wearing trousers but looking slightly less hostile than before. I cleaned out the desk in your room, she announced, and I made a list of things I want to learn. Excellent, Amelia said, smiling. We will review your list this afternoon and create a curriculum together. William appeared from the barn, wiping his hands on a rag. Welcome home, Miss Drake. Your room is ready and lunch will be ready in about an hour. I hope you do not mind, but we all take turns cooking around here. Catherine and I manage simple meals, and Bennett is surprisingly good with anything that involves a skillet. I am happy to help with cooking, Amelia assured him. I am no expert, but I can manage basic dishes. The room they had prepared for her was larger than she expected, with a double bed covered in a beautiful quilt, a wardrobe, a desk with chair, and a window overlooking the pastures. Wildflowers sat in a jar on the desk, and she suspected Catherine had picked them despite the girl's tough exterior. Amelia unpacked her few possessions, hanging her dresses in the wardrobe and arranging her books on the desk. She had brought her mother's silver brush and mirror set, one of the few valuable things she owned, and she placed them carefully on the dresser. Looking around the room, she felt a sense of peace she had not experienced in months. Lunch was a lively affair, with William and Bennett discussing ranch business while Catherine peppered Amelia with questions about Philadelphia and what schools were like in the East. Amelia found herself laughing at Catherine's endless curiosity and Bennett's dry humor. After lunch, Amelia and Catherine settled in the study to discuss lessons. The girl produced her list, which included advanced mathematics, American history, literature, geography, and science. Amelia was impressed by the breadth of subjects Catherine wanted to explore. "We will cover all of this," Amelia promised, "but we will do it systematically. We start with fundamentals and build from there. Also, I want you to keep a journal. Writing every day will improve your composition skills and help you process your thoughts." Catherine made a face. "That sounds like feelings talk." "It is observation practice," Amelia corrected. "Scientists keep journals, explorers keep journals, military leaders keep journals. It is simply recording what you see, think, and learn each day. If feelings happen to come up, you can include them or not as you choose." "When you put it that way, I suppose it makes sense," Catherine conceded. They spent the rest of the afternoon establishing a routine. They would start at 8 each morning with an hour of mathematics, followed by an hour alternating between history and geography. After a short break, they would spend an hour on literature and composition, and the final hour would be dedicated to whatever subject Catherine was most interested in that day, allowing for deeper exploration. By the time they finished planning, Catherine's initial hostility had completely vanished. "You are not like any teacher I imagined," she admitted. "You actually listen." "Education should be a conversation, not a lecture," Amelia said. "I learn from you just as you learn from me." That first week established a comfortable rhythm. Amelia rose early, helped prepare breakfast, taught Catherine until noon, then spent the afternoon organizing the ranch accounts while Catherine did chores. Evenings were spent with the whole family, sometimes reading aloud, sometimes just talking about the day. Bennett was often out working with the ranch hands, but when he was at the house, Amelia found herself drawn to his steady presence. He would ask about her day, genuinely interested in Catherine's progress and the state of the accounts. In return, he told her about ranch life, teaching her the names of different cattle breeds and explaining the seasonal rhythms of raising livestock. On her first Saturday, Bennett drove her into town as promised. Amelia visited the lending library, returned her completed letters to a friend in Boston who had remained loyal despite the scandal, and purchased fabric to make a new dress. Mrs. Patterson invited her for tea, eager to hear how the ranch life was suiting her. "You look better already," the landlady observed. "There is color in your cheeks, and you are not carrying yourself like the weight of the world is on your shoulders." "The Nash family has been wonderfully kind," Amelia admitted, "and the work is engaging. Catherine is brilliant, and William's accounts are a fascinating puzzle to organize." "And how are you finding Bennett?" Mrs. Patterson asked with a knowing look. "He is a good man," Amelia said carefully. "But I am not ready for anything beyond friendship, no matter how kind he is." "Of course, dear. Though I will note that the heart heals faster than we sometimes expect, especially when someone treats it gently." The words stayed with Amelia as Bennett drove her back to the ranch. She studied his profile as he drove, noting the strong line of his jaw, the laugh lines around his eyes, the capable hands holding the reins. He was handsome, certainly, but more than that, he made her feel safe. With Thomas, she had always felt slightly on edge, trying to be what he wanted. With Bennett, she could simply be herself. As summer turned toward autumn, the days established a comforting routine. Catherine proved to be an eager student once she realized Amelia respected her intelligence. They worked through mathematics problems together, debated historical events, and read everything from Homer to contemporary American poets. Catherine particularly loved the sciences, dissecting the natural world with questions that sometimes stumped even Amelia. "Why does the sun set at different times throughout the year?" Catherine asked one September afternoon. "It has to do with the Earth's tilt and orbit around the sun," Amelia explained, pulling out a sheet of paper to diagram. "The Earth does not sit straight up as it orbits. It is tilted about 23 degrees, which means different parts of the Earth receive more direct sunlight at different times of year." Catherine studied the diagram intently. "So when we are tilted toward the sun, we get summer, and when we are tilted away, we get winter." "Exactly. And the further you are from the equator, the more extreme those differences become." "Bennett should hear this," Catherine said, jumping up. "He and Father were arguing about when to move the herd to winter pasture, and this might help them understand the timing better." She ran off to find her brother, leaving Amelia smiling at her enthusiasm. Moments later, both Bennett and William appeared in the study, curious about this astronomical explanation for seasonal timing. Amelia found herself explaining the concept again, this time with Bennett standing close enough that she could smell the combination of leather, hay, and soap that always clung to him. When she finished, William nodded thoughtfully. "That makes more sense of some things I have noticed over the years," he said. "Thank you, Miss Drake. You are teaching all of us, not just Catherine." After they left, Amelia realized her hands were trembling slightly. Bennett's proximity had affected her in a way she was not ready to acknowledge. She told herself it meant nothing, just a natural response to an attractive man. Her heart was not ready to feel anything deeper. But as October arrived with cooler temperatures and the first hints of fall color in the oak trees, Amelia could not deny that something was shifting inside her. She found herself looking forward to evenings when Bennett would read aloud from the newspaper, his deep voice filling the parlor with stories from the wider world. She noticed how patient he was with Catherine, never dismissing her questions or ideas. She watched how he cared for the animals, gentle with the horses and attentive to signs of illness in the cattle. One evening in late October, Amelia was sitting on the porch watching the sunset when Bennett joined her. He carried 2 cups of coffee, offering her one as he settled into the chair beside hers. "Catherine told me today that you are the best teacher she has ever had," Bennett said. "She has actually asked if she can study more than 4 hours because she does not want to wait until tomorrow to continue discussing Greek mythology." Amelia laughed. "She has discovered the Odyssey and is obsessed with Athena. I think she sees herself in the goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare." "Not an inaccurate comparison," Bennett said with a grin. "My sister is definitely wise and strategic. Thank you for reaching her, Amelia. You have given her something she desperately needed." It was the first time he had used her given name, and the intimacy of it sent a flutter through her chest. "She has given me something too," Amelia said softly. "Purpose and a place to belong. I was so lost when I arrived, Bennett. Your family has quite literally saved me." "You saved yourself," Bennett corrected. "You made the choice to start over. We just provided a location." They sat in comfortable silence, sipping coffee and watching the sky turn from gold to pink to purple. Finally, Bennett said, "Can I ask you something personal?" "You can ask." "I may not answer." "Fair enough." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Do you ever regret leaving Philadelphia? Do you miss your old life?" Amelia considered the question seriously. "I miss parts of it. I miss my friend Charlotte, who was loyal to the end. I miss certain places and routines. But do I regret leaving? No, That life was not really mine. I was performing a role, being who everyone expected me to be. Here I can actually be myself. That is worth more than all the comforts and familiarity I left behind." "And your heart?" Bennett asked quietly. "Is it healing?" Amelia's breath caught. She looked at Bennett, really looked at him, and saw open affection in his eyes. He was not hiding his feelings, but he was not pressuring her either. He was simply letting her know they were there if she ever wanted to reach for them. "It is," she whispered. Slowly, but yes. Like a bone that was broken and is knitting back together, still tender but growing stronger. Bennett nodded, seeming satisfied with that answer. "Good. You deserve to be whole again, Amelia. Take all the time you need." The weeks that followed felt suspended between what was and what might be. Amelia was increasingly aware of Bennett, the sound of his boots on the porch, his laugh from the barn, the way he looked at her across the dinner table. But she was cautious, protecting her healing heart from rushing into anything. In mid-November, the first real cold snap arrived, bringing frost that silvered the grass each morning. Catherine was ecstatic, having read about frost formation and wanting to observe it firsthand. She dragged Amelia out before sunrise to watch the transformation, both of them wrapped in shawls and laughing at their clouded breath. "Everything is connected," Catherine said wonderingly, touching a frost-covered leaf. "Temperature and moisture and air pressure, all working together to create this. It is like the world is one big mathematical equation." "Poetry and mathematics combined," Amelia agreed. "That is the beauty of science." They heard a horse approaching and turned to see Bennett riding back from checking the far pastures. He stopped when he saw them, his expression softening at the sight of the two bundled figures examining frost. "Learning never stops with you two, does it?" he called. "Why should it?" Catherine called back. "Every day brings new things to understand." Bennett dismounted and walked over to them, and Amelia's heart did that now familiar flutter at his nearness. "Father sent me to tell you breakfast is ready," he said. "Though I see you have been busy with more important matters than food." "Food is important too," Catherine said pragmatically. "Come on, Amelia. I am freezing." She ran toward the house, leaving Amelia and Bennett standing in the frost-silvered grass. Bennett offered his arm, and after only a moment's hesitation, Amelia took it. They walked slowly toward the house, neither in any hurry despite the cold. "She calls you Amelia now," Bennett observed. "When did that start? Last week?" "She said calling me Miss Drake felt too formal for someone she spent so much time with. I told her it was fine as long as her father approved." "And did he?" "He said you were all family now, so formality was unnecessary." Bennett stopped walking, turning to face her. "Is that what we are to you?" "Family?" Amelia met his eyes, seeing the question beneath the question. "You have become very important to me," she said carefully. "All of you. This place, this life, matters to me in a way I did not expect." "But," Bennett prompted gently. "But I am still scared," Amelia admitted. "My judgment was so wrong before. How do I trust it again? How do I trust my own feelings?" "You do it slowly and carefully, same as healing," Bennett said. He reached up and tucked a stray lock of hair behind her ear, the gesture achingly tender. "I am not Thomas, Amelia. I am not going to betray you or hurt you deliberately. But I also cannot make you trust me. That is something only time can build. You are being very patient with me. You are worth the patience." They stood there for a long moment, frost melting around their feet as the sun rose higher, until Catherine's voice calling them to breakfast broke the spell. But something had shifted between them, an acknowledgement of feelings beginning to grow. Thanksgiving arrived with clear skies and unseasonably warm weather. William insisted on hosting several neighboring ranchers and their families, turning the holiday into a genuine celebration. Amelia helped Catherine prepare an enormous meal, learning how to roast turkey and make cornbread stuffing from scratch. The house filled with guests, and Amelia found herself welcomed as part of the Nash family rather than treated as an employee. The other ranchers' wives drew her into their conversations, asking about her impressions of California and sharing stories about frontier life. Several had daughters Catherine's age, and Amelia promised to organize regular study sessions so the girls could learn together. Bennett stayed close to her throughout the day, not possessively but protectively, making sure she was not overwhelmed by all the new people. At one point, when an elderly rancher named Mr. Calloway asked rather intrusively about her personal history, Bennett smoothly redirected the conversation before Amelia had to explain about Philadelphia. "Thank you," she murmured when they had a moment alone. "Always," Bennett replied simply. That night, after the guests had left and the house had been restored to order, the family sat around the fireplace drinking cider. Catherine, exhausted from the excitement, fell asleep on the sofa, and William excused himself to bed, leaving Bennett and Amelia alone in the flickering firelight. "Did you have a good day?" Bennett asked. "One of the best since I arrived," Amelia said honestly. "Everyone was so kind I felt like I belonged." "You do belong. You are not a guest anymore, Amelia. You are home." The word home resonated in Amelia's chest, and she realized how true it was. This ranch, this family, had become her home in a way Philadelphia never really had. She belonged here not because of social expectation or family obligation, but because she chose it and was chosen in return. "Bennett," she said softly, then hesitated, unsure how to express what she was feeling. He waited patiently, giving her time to find the words. "I think my heart is healing faster than I expected," she finally said. "And I think you are a large part of why." Bennett's smile was slow and warm. "That is the best thing you could have told me." "I am still scared," Amelia warned. "I am not ready to rush into anything." "I do not want to rush either," Bennett assured her. "We have all the time in the world. Let things develop naturally, at whatever pace feels right to you." Amelia nodded, feeling relief and anticipation in equal measure. She was not ready for grand declarations or promises, but she was ready to acknowledge that something real was growing between them. December brought colder weather and occasional rain that turned the roads to mud. Catherine continued her studies with unabated enthusiasm, particularly enjoying a new focus on American history and the early pioneers who had settled California. She peppered Amelia with questions about the differences between the East and West, fascinated by how quickly the country was changing. Christmas preparations began in early December, with Catherine insisting on making gifts for everyone rather than purchasing them. She spent her free hours knitting a muffler for her father and carving a wooden box for Bennett to keep his treasures in. For Amelia, she was creating something secret, refusing to reveal what it was. Amelia took on extra sewing projects in town, earning money to purchase gifts for the Nash family. For William, she found a beautiful leather-bound journal for recording ranch business. For Catherine, she purchased a microscope she found advertised in the newspaper, having it shipped from San Francisco at considerable expense. For Bennett, she agonized over what to give, wanting something meaningful without being too forward. Finally, she decided to embroider a handkerchief with his initials, a practical gift that could also be personal. She worked on it in the evenings, her stitches careful, and even, each one a small declaration of her growing feelings. The first snow came on December 20th, just a light dusting that melted by noon but thrilled Catherine nonetheless. She insisted on attempting to catch snowflakes to examine their structure, though they melted too quickly for proper study. "Next winter, "I will have my microscope," Catherine declared, not knowing that her gift was already wrapped and hidden in Amelia's room. "Then I will see the crystalline structure everyone talks about." On Christmas Eve, William invited Samuel Porter, the rancher who had helped Bennett after his mother's death, to join them for dinner. Sam was a jovial man in his 60s with a white beard and twinkling eyes that made Amelia think of St. Nicholas. He brought a ham from his smokehouse and stories that had them all laughing until their sides hurt. "So Bennett told me you are from Philadelphia," Sam said to Amelia over dessert. "What brought you all the way to California?" Amelia tensed slightly, but Bennett's reassuring presence beside her gave her courage. "I needed a fresh start," she said simply, "and California seemed like the place for new beginnings." "It certainly is that," Sam agreed. "I came here in '49 looking for gold. Found dirt and heartbreak instead. But I stayed because the land itself was worth more than any gold. Built something real here, something lasting. Sounds like you are doing the same." "I hope so," Amelia said sincerely. After dinner, they gathered in the parlor where William produced a violin Amelia had not known he could play. He was rusty, he admitted, having not played much since his wife died, but the music that emerged was still beautiful. They sang carols together, their voices blending in imperfect harmony that somehow felt perfect anyway. When Sam left and Catherine went to bed, William also retired, leaving Bennett and Amelia alone again. They sat by the fire, not speaking at first, just enjoying the peaceful companionship. "I have something for you," Bennett finally said, pulling a small package from his pocket. "I know we said we would exchange gifts tomorrow, but I wanted to give you this now when it is just us." Amelia took the package with trembling fingers and unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a silver locket on a delicate chain. She opened it to find a tiny pressed wildflower inside, the kind that grew in the meadow behind the house. "I picked it in August," Bennett explained. "The day after you agreed to stay. I wanted to give you something to remind you that you are not alone anymore, that you have a place here." Tears filled Amelia's eyes. "It is beautiful. Help me put it on." Bennett fastened the chain around her neck, his fingers gentle against her skin. When he finished, he did not immediately pull away. Instead, his hands rested lightly on her shoulders and Amelia leaned back slightly, allowing herself to rest against his chest. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything. For rescuing me that day on the platform, for giving me a place to heal, for being patient with my broken heart." "Your heart is not broken anymore," Bennett said softly. "It is mending beautifully." Amelia turned in his arms, looking up at him. "I think it is," she agreed. "And I think you are right that healing happens faster when someone treats it gently." Bennett cupped her face in his hands, giving her every opportunity to pull away. But Amelia did not want to pull away anymore. She wanted to lean into this, into him, into the possibility of something new and good. When he kissed her, it was gentle and questioning, asking rather than demanding. Amelia answered by rising on her toes and wrapping her arms around his neck, kissing him back with all the hope and trust she had been carefully rebuilding over the past months. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. "Merry Christmas, Amelia," Bennett murmured. "Merry Christmas, Bennett." They stayed by the fire talking until the logs burned down to embers, sharing stories of past Christmases and dreams for future ones. When they finally went to their separate rooms, Amelia touched the locket at her throat and felt truly happy for the first time since leaving Philadelphia. Christmas morning dawned cold and clear. Catherine was up early, excited to exchange gifts. Her delight at receiving the microscope was worth every penny Amelia had spent, and her gift to Amelia proved to be a painting of the ranch house at sunset, showing Amelia standing on the porch looking out over the land. "It is how I see you," Catherine explained. "Like you belong to this place and it belongs to you." Amelia hugged the girl tightly, too moved for words. The winter months passed peacefully. Amelia and Bennett continued their slow courtship, stealing moments alone whenever they could but never rushing beyond what felt right. He held her hand during evening walks, kissed her goodnight with increasing passion but always with respect, and talked about a future that included her without demanding promises she was not ready to make. In February, a letter arrived from Amelia's friend Charlotte in Boston. It contained news from Philadelphia, including the information that Thomas and Julia's marriage had already fallen apart amid scandal, with Thomas caught once again in infidelity. Charlotte wrote that Amelia's mother had finally admitted that blaming Amelia for Thomas's behavior had been wrong and that she missed her daughter. Amelia read the letter twice, then folded it away. She felt nothing for Thomas beyond a vague pity. The man who had once held her heart now seemed like a character from someone else's story. Her life was here now, with people who valued her for who she actually was. "My mother wants me to come home," she told Bennett that evening. They were in the barn where he was checking on a mare about to foal, Bennett's hand stilled on the brush he was using. "Will you go?" "No," Amelia said firmly. "This is home now. Philadelphia is just the place I came from." The relief on Bennett's face was obvious. "I am glad. I know I said I would not pressure you, but I have to be honest. The thought of you leaving tears me apart." "I am not leaving," Amelia promised. "Not unless you want me to." "Never," Bennett said fiercely. He pulled her close, heedless of the hay dust on his clothes. "I love you, Amelia. I have been trying not to say it too soon, but I cannot hold it back anymore. I love you, and I want you to stay forever, as my wife if you will have me." Amelia's breath caught. She had known this was coming, had felt their relationship moving toward this moment, but hearing the actual words still shocked her. "Bennett, You do not have to answer now," he said quickly. "I know you need time, I just needed you to know how I feel." "No," Amelia said, and his face fell until she continued. "I do not need more time. I love you too, Bennett. It terrifies me because I was so wrong before, but I know what I feel. You have shown me every day for 8 months what real love looks like. It looks like patience and kindness and respect. It looks like you. Is that a yes?" Bennett asked, hope lighting his eyes. "Yes," Amelia said, laughing through sudden tears. "Yes, I will marry you." Bennett kissed her then, deeply and thoroughly, until they were both breathless. The mare nickered disapprovingly at the neglect, making them both laugh. "We should tell Catherine and your father," Amelia said, straightening her dress. "Tomorrow," Bennett said, stealing another kiss. "Tonight, let me just hold you and be amazed that you said yes." They announced their engagement the next morning at breakfast. William's reaction was pure joy, declaring he had been hoping for this since August. Catherine's response was more complicated, excitement mixed with worry. "Does this mean you will stop teaching me?" she asked Amelia anxiously. "Absolutely not," Amelia assured her. "I will be your sister now as well as your teacher. If anything, you are stuck with me more permanently." Catherine's worried expression melted into a grin. "Good. I was afraid you getting married would ruin everything." "Nothing is ruined," Amelia promised. "Everything is just beginning." They decided on a small wedding in April, giving them time to prepare and allowing the weather to warm. Amelia wrote to Charlotte, inviting her to come west for the wedding, and was thrilled when her friend accepted immediately. Mrs. Patterson took charge of organizing the ceremony and reception, declaring that she had known from the start this would happen. The weeks flew by in a whirl of preparations. Amelia worked with Catherine to finish the spring term curriculum while also preparing for the wedding. William expanded the ranch house, adding 2 rooms to give Bennett and Amelia more private space while keeping them under the same roof as family. In late March, Charlotte arrived from Boston, bringing trunks full of gifts and an infectious enthusiasm that delighted everyone. She and Catherine bonded immediately over books and ideas, with Charlotte proving almost as curious and outspoken as the younger girl. "He is perfect for you," Charlotte told Amelia one evening while they were preparing the wedding dress. "Nothing like Thomas. Bennett actually sees you, Amelia. He loves who you are, not who he wants you to be." "I know," Amelia said softly. "I can hardly believe how lucky I am. 9 months ago I thought my life was over. Now I am happier than I have ever been." The wedding took place on April 15th, on the ranch with the oak trees providing natural decoration. Samuel Porter stood up with Bennett, while Charlotte and Catherine stood with Amelia. The local minister performed a simple but beautiful ceremony, and when Bennett kissed his bride, everyone cheered. The reception lasted all afternoon, with neighbors bringing food and music. Someone produced a fiddle, and dancing erupted spontaneously. Bennett led Amelia through dance after dance, his eyes never leaving her face. "Happy?" he asked during a quieter moment. "Beyond words," Amelia replied, "though I do wish my family could see how happy I am." "You have a family right here," Bennett reminded her. "People who love you completely. Never forget that." As the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant colors, Amelia looked around at the ranch that had become her home, at the people who had become her family, and at the man who had mended her broken heart with time and care. She thought of the devastated woman who had stepped off that train 9 months ago and marveled at how far she had come. That night, in the privacy of their newly expanded rooms, Bennett held Amelia close and whispered promises about their future together. They made love with tenderness and passion, sealing their commitment to each other. The years that followed were not without challenges, but they faced everything together. Catherine flourished under Amelia's continued guidance, eventually attending a women's college in Oakland and becoming a teacher herself. William lived to see his grandchildren, 4 of them born over the next 8 years, and delighted in teaching them to ride and work cattle. Bennett expanded the ranch. Using knowledge Amelia helped him research to implement new breeding techniques and water management systems. Together, they built the Nash Ranch into one of the most prosperous operations in Central California, known as much for their innovative practices as for their cattle. Amelia continued teaching, first Catherine and then her own children, and eventually established a small school on the ranch that served neighboring families as well. She maintained her correspondence with Charlotte and eventually reconciled with her mother, though they never regained the closeness they had once shared. On warm summer evenings, Bennett and Amelia would sit on the porch and watch the sunset, sometimes in comfortable silence, sometimes reminiscing about that day in July 1883, when a train brought a bride with a broken heart and a cowboy offered to mend it with time and care. "Do you ever think about what your life would have been like if you had married Thomas?" Bennett asked one evening, their 4 children playing in the yard before them. Amelia considered the question, watching their oldest son, 8-year-old William, help his 5-year-old sister Grace climb a fence. Their middle son, 3-year-old Samuel, was chasing chickens while baby Charlotte slept in her cradle nearby. "Sometimes," Amelia admitted, "but only to appreciate how much better this life is. Thomas would have clipped my wings, made me small to make himself feel large. You let me be fully myself, encouraged me to grow and explore. This life, this family, is everything I never knew I needed." Bennett reached over and took her hand, his touch as familiar as breathing after 12 years of marriage. "I am the lucky one. You brought life back to this place after my mother died. You gave Catherine a future, my father joy in his final years, and me a love I never expected to find." "We are both lucky," Amelia said, squeezing his hand. "Though I suppose luck is the wrong word. We both chose this, chose to trust and love again despite our fears." Young William ran up to the porch, his face flushed with excitement. "Papa, can you teach me to use the lasso tomorrow?" "I am big enough now, I promise." "We will see," Bennett said with a smile. "But yes, I think you probably are big enough. We will start with the short rope and work up from there." After the children were finally settled in bed, exhausted from their play, Bennett and Amelia took their customary evening walk around the property. The ranch had grown considerably over the years, now spanning nearly 3,000 acres with multiple barns, an expanded bunkhouse for their ranch hands, and various outbuildings. "I have been thinking," Bennett said as they walked hand in hand. "Catherine wrote that she is thinking of accepting the teaching position in Sacramento. That means this house will feel quite empty soon, just us and the children." "She needs to build her own life," Amelia said, though she felt a pang at the thought of Catherine leaving. The girl who had been so resistant to education at 14 was now a 26-year-old woman passionate about teaching others. "We have prepared her for this. I know. I am proud of her. I am proud of you for making her who she is." Bennett stopped walking and turned to face Amelia in the moonlight. "Do you have any regrets? About leaving your old life, about the family you left behind?" "None," Amelia said firmly. "I made my peace with my mother before she died last year. I have Charlotte's friendship maintained through our letters. But this ranch, you, our children, this is my real family. The life I had in Philadelphia was not really living. It was existing within narrow boundaries that someone else defined. Here, I am free to be who I truly am. An educator, a mother, a rancher's wife, and the woman who keeps me grounded," Bennett said with a smile. "You wear many hats, Amelia Nash." "And I love every one of them," Amelia replied. "Though I think my favorite role is simply being your wife." They walked back to the house, where lamplight glowed warmly in the windows. Inside, their children slept peacefully, and the life they had built together continued its steady, satisfying rhythm. The following spring brought change when Catherine indeed accepted the position in Sacramento and moved into her own small house near the school where she would teach. Amelia helped her pack and set up her new home, proud and sad in equal measure. "You have given me everything," Catherine said tearfully as they said goodbye. "An education, a sense of self, the confidence to pursue my dreams. I cannot imagine who I would be without you." "You would have been remarkable regardless," Amelia assured her. "I simply helped you see what was already there." With Catherine launched into her own life, Amelia focused more attention on her own children's education and the small school she ran for neighboring families. Her reputation as an excellent teacher spread, and families from as far as 20 miles away sent their children to learn from her. Bennett continued to prosper in the cattle business, and together they became pillars of the growing community. They hosted church gatherings, organized community events, and were always first to help neighbors in need. The Nash Ranch became known as a place where anyone could find assistance and respect. In 1895, when California was experiencing a terrible drought that devastated many ranchers, the Nashes opened their wells to neighbors and worked out barter systems so no one lost their herds entirely. The community never forgot their generosity during that hard year. "My grandfather always said that success means nothing if you cannot share it," Bennett explained when one proud rancher tried to thank him. "We help each other. That is how we all survive." Amelia watched her husband organize relief efforts and felt her love for him deepen even further. He was the same man who had seen a broken woman on a train platform and offered kindness without expectation of return. His goodness was not performance but his essential nature. Their children grew, each developing distinct personalities. William was steady and responsible, clearly destined to take over the ranch someday. Grace was clever and curious, much like her Aunt Catherine had been. Samuel had a gift with animals that amazed even the most experienced ranch hands. And little Charlotte, named for Amelia's dear friend, was showing signs of inheriting her mother's love of teaching, always organizing elaborate lessons for her dolls. In 1897, tragedy struck when a fire swept through one of the barns. Bennett rushed in to save trapped horses and was badly burned in the process. For weeks, Amelia sat by his bedside, applying salves and changing bandages, terrified she might lose him. "You are not allowed to leave me," she told him fiercely during a moment when he was conscious and lucid. "We have too much life left to live together." "Not planning to," Bennett managed to say, his voice rough from smoke inhalation. "I promised you forever, and I always keep my promises." He recovered slowly, left with scars on his arms and chest but otherwise whole. The experience made them both appreciate the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment together. "I want to take you on a trip," Bennett announced one evening after he had fully recovered. "San Francisco, maybe even up to Oregon. The children are old enough now that William can manage things here with the foreman for a few weeks. I want to show you more of this country that adopted you." They took the trip in the summer of 1898, their first extended time alone since before the children were born. They stayed in fine hotels, ate in restaurants, attended theater performances, and simply enjoyed each other's company without the demands of ranch life. "This is wonderful," Amelia said as they walked along the San Francisco waterfront. "But I find myself eager to get home. Is that strange?" "Not at all," Bennett replied. "That ranch is not just a place. It is where our life together exists. All the best parts of us are there." They returned home to find everything running smoothly and their children delighted to see them. That night, tucked into their own bed, Amelia reflected on how different her life would have been if she had never boarded that train west. "What are you thinking about?" Bennett asked, sensing she was still awake. "About trains and broken hearts and cowboys who offer to mend them," Amelia said softly. "About how the worst day of my life led directly to the best days of my life. No regrets then, not a single one. Thomas's betrayal was a gift, though I could not see it at the time. It freed me to find you to build this life. I would go through that pain again if I knew it led here." Bennett pulled her close. "I am grateful for every twist of fate that brought you to that platform in Stockton. My life began the day I saw you standing there, looking lost but not defeated." As the new century approached, the Nash family prepared for the turn of the millennium with both excitement and reflection. William, now 17, was preparing to attend agricultural college to learn modern ranching techniques. Grace, at 14, was showing interest in becoming a doctor, an ambition Amelia encouraged despite knowing the challenges women faced in medicine. Samuel, at 11, was already an accomplished rider and roper, and Charlotte, at 7, was reading at a level well beyond her years. Catherine visited for Christmas that year, bringing with her a surprise, a gentleman named Henry Morrison who taught mathematics at a boys' preparatory school in Sacramento. The romance was clearly serious, and Amelia was delighted to see Catherine so happy. "He is wonderful," Catherine confided to Amelia while they were preparing Christmas dinner. "He respects my mind and my career. He reminds me of Bennett in many ways." "The highest compliment you could give," Amelia said with a smile. "When is the wedding, June? And you have to help me plan everything. You are the only mother I have really had since I was 11. The words brought tears to Amelia's eyes. She hugged Catherine tightly. "I am honored, and I am so happy for you." Catherine and Henry married in June of 1900, in a ceremony at the ranch that echoed Bennett and Amelia's own wedding 17 years earlier. Watching Catherine pledge her life to a good man who loved her mind as much as her heart, Amelia felt the circle of healing complete. The angry, lost girl she had first met had become a confident, joyful woman. The first decade of the new century brought continued prosperity to the Nash ranch. William returned from college with new ideas that he implemented with Bennett's enthusiastic support. The ranch diversified, adding orchards and vegetable crops to complement the cattle operation. Grace indeed pursued medicine, facing significant obstacles, but persevering with the same determination she had inherited from both parents. Samuel married young, at 21, to the daughter of a neighboring rancher. Amelia welcomed her new daughter-in-law Sarah with open arms, delighted to see the Nash family continuing to grow. Charlotte showed every sign of becoming a teacher like her mother and aunt. In 1908, Amelia and Bennett celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary with a large gathering that included family, friends, and neighbors from across the county. Looking around at the crowd, Amelia marveled at the life they had built together. 25 years, Bennett said during his toast. A quarter-century since I saw a beautiful woman step off a train with a broken heart, and I had the audacity to think maybe I could help mend it. Turns out, she mended mine instead. To my wife, my partner, my best friend. Here is to 25 more years and beyond. Everyone raised their glasses, and Amelia felt tears of joy streaming down her face. She had found everything she had never known she was looking for: true love, purpose, family, and a place to belong. As the party continued, with dancing and music filling the warm summer night, Amelia found a quiet moment alone with Bennett. "Do you remember what you told me that first day?" she asked. "That day on the platform when I was so lost. I asked if you were all right," Bennett recalled. "Though it was obvious you were not. And then later, after you brought me to Mrs. Patterson's, you said something about time and care being the best medicines for heartbreak. You offered both, never demanding anything in return, because I could see you needed healing, not pressure." "You saved me," Amelia said simply. "Not just from being lost in a strange place, but from losing myself entirely. You gave me space to heal, then you loved me back to wholeness. I can never thank you enough for that." "You saved me too," Bennett replied. "After my mother died, this place felt empty, like we were all just going through motions. You brought life back. You brought love and laughter and purpose. We saved each other, Amelia." They stood together watching their family and friends celebrate, the ranch spread out around them in the gathering twilight. Their 4 children, now ranging from 17 to 25, were all dancing and laughing. Catherine and Henry were there with their 2 young sons. Samuel's wife, Sarah, was visibly pregnant with their first child. William was courting a lovely young woman from town. Grace had recently been accepted into a medical program in San Francisco. And little Charlotte, not so little anymore at 15, was discussing books with a boy clearly smitten with her. "We did good," Bennett said softly. "All of this, everything we built together, it matters. It will last." "It will last because we built it on love and respect," Amelia agreed. "Not just for each other, but for everyone around us. That is the legacy we are leaving." As the night deepened and stars emerged in the vast California sky, Bennett and Amelia danced together one more time. His arms around her felt as right as they had on their wedding night 25 years ago. Some things never changed, and that was a blessing. The years continued to pass, bringing both joy and sorrow as all years do. In 1912, Amelia received word that her sister Margaret, who had sent that devastating telegram so long ago, had passed away unexpectedly. Despite the decades of estrangement, Amelia mourned the loss of the relationship they might have had if pride and stubbornness had not gotten in the way. "Family is complicated," Bennett said, holding her as she cried. "You made peace with it the best you could. That is all anyone can do." That same year brought happier news when Grace graduated from medical school, one of only 3 women in her class. She returned to Stockton to open a practice, focusing on women's and children's health. Amelia could not have been prouder. Samuel and Sarah presented them with their 3rd grandchild, a boy they named Bennett after his grandfather. William married his sweetheart and brought her to live on the ranch, where he continued to manage the cattle operation with skill and innovation. Charlotte completed teacher training and took a position at the school Amelia had founded years earlier, ensuring the Nash tradition of education would continue. Catherine remained in Sacramento, teaching and raising her 3 sons, but visited regularly and maintained a close correspondence with Amelia. Their bond, forged in those early months when a lost girl had needed guidance and a heartbroken woman had needed purpose, remained strong across distance and time. In 1918, as the Great War was ending, Bennett and Amelia celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary quietly, just the 2 of them on the porch where they had spent countless evenings over the years. They were both in their late 50s now, their hair graying but their love as strong as ever. "Do you ever think about that telegram?" Bennett asked, referencing the crumpled paper that had sent Amelia fleeing west all those decades ago. "Sometimes," Amelia admitted. "Not with pain anymore, just with gratitude. If Thomas had not betrayed me, if my family had not chosen his side, I never would have gotten on that train. I never would have found this life. The worst thing that happened to me led to the best things." "I am grateful too," Bennett said. "For whatever twist of fate put us both in that station on that particular day. I was just coming back from checking cattle prices, no particular reason to be in town that afternoon. But something drew me to the station, and there you were." "Destiny," Amelia said with a smile, "or providence. Or maybe just dumb luck. Whatever it was, I am grateful." As they sat watching the sunset, their grandchildren playing in the yard and their children managing the ranch they would soon inherit, Amelia reflected on the journey from that day on the platform to this moment of perfect contentment. The broken heart that had seemed like the end of everything had actually been the beginning of the life she was meant to live. "I love you," she told Bennett, words she had said thousands of times over 35 years but which still felt fresh and necessary. "I love you too," he replied. "Today, tomorrow, and always." The seasons continued their eternal cycle, and the Nash Ranch prospered through drought and plenty, depression and prosperity. Bennett and Amelia grew older together, their bond deepening with each passing year. They became grandparents 9 times over, with more grandchildren likely to come. They watched their children build successful lives and their grandchildren grow into fine young people. In 1925, the town of Stockton held a celebration honoring pioneers who had helped build the community. Bennett and Amelia were among those recognized, honored not just for their successful ranch but for their contributions to education, their generosity during hard times, and their example of a loving, equal partnership. "Mrs. Nash," the mayor said during the ceremony, "you came to Stockton 42 years ago as a stranger fleeing heartbreak. You became one of our community's greatest assets, educating multiple generations and showing what women can achieve when given opportunity. Thank you for choosing Stockton as your home." Amelia stood to accept the recognition, Bennett's hand firmly in hers. "Thank you, but I must correct one thing. I did not choose Stockton so much as Stockton, and particularly one generous cowboy, chose me. This community gave me a second chance at life when I desperately needed one. Everything I have done since has simply been my way of saying thank you." The audience applauded, and as Amelia returned to her seat, she caught Bennett's eye and saw the pride and love shining there. After all these years, one look from him could still make her heart flutter. That evening, back at the ranch, their entire extended family gathered for dinner. 4 children, 9 grandchildren, various sons and daughters-in-law, and Catherine with her family all crowded around the expanded dining table. The noise and laughter filled the house, and Amelia felt her heart overflow with gratitude. "Speech, speech." The grandchildren chanted when dessert was served. Bennett stood, raising his glass. "All right, you want a speech? Here it is. 42 years ago, I went into town on an ordinary day and met an extraordinary woman. She was heartbroken and lost, but she had courage and strength she did not even recognize yet. I offered her friendship and a place to heal, and in return, she gave me everything. She gave me love, partnership, family, and a life richer than I ever imagined possible. To Amelia, the best decision I ever made was helping you off that train platform." To Amelia, everyone chorused, and Amelia had to wipe tears from her eyes. When the family finally dispersed to their various homes, leaving just Bennett and Amelia in the quiet house, they settled into their familiar evening routine. They sat on the porch, holding hands, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. "Tired?" Bennett asked. "Contentedly so," Amelia replied. "It was a perfect day." "We have had a lot of perfect days," Bennett observed. "Even the hard ones were perfect in their way because we faced them together." "I cannot imagine having lived any other life," Amelia said. "This is exactly where I was meant to be." The night deepened around them, bringing the usual sounds of the ranch: cattle lowing in the distance, horses moving in the corral, crickets chirping in the grass. It was the symphony of home, familiar and beloved. In 1930, Bennett and Amelia celebrated their golden wedding anniversary. The celebration was smaller than their 25th, as both were now in their 70s and preferred quiet gatherings. But the love that filled the room was no less powerful. Catherine came with her grandchildren now, her own children grown and starting families. William managed the ranch with his own son learning at his side. Grace continued her medical practice, respected throughout the region. Samuel's ranch had become nearly as successful as the Nash family operation. And Charlotte taught with the same passion her mother and aunt had always shown, inspiring a new generation. 50 years, Catherine marveled, hugging Amelia. "You and Bennett have shown all of us what real love looks like. Thank you for that example." As Amelia looked around at the family they had created, the legacy they were leaving, she felt profound satisfaction. The broken-hearted woman who had stepped off that train in 1883 had been transformed by love, patience, and time into someone confident, loved, and purposeful. That night, lying in bed beside Bennett, she said, "I want you to know something. If I had my life to live over, knowing everything that would happen, I would not change a single thing. Not the heartbreak in Philadelphia, not the desperate flight west, nothing. Because every moment led to this, to us, to the life we built together." "That is the most beautiful thing you have ever said to me," Bennett replied, his voice thick with emotion. "And I feel exactly the same way. You are my greatest blessing, Amelia Nash." They fell asleep holding hands as they had for 50 years, two hearts so intertwined that it was impossible to say where one ended and the other began. The years after their golden anniversary were gentle ones. Both Bennett and Amelia gradually reduced their work responsibilities, handing over the ranch and school to the next generation. They spent their days in comfortable routine: breakfast together, walks around the property, reading in the afternoon, evenings with family. In 1935, at age 77, Bennett's health began to fail. His heart was weakening, the doctor explained gently. There was nothing to be done except make him comfortable and cherish the time remaining. Amelia refused to leave his side. She sat with him every day, reading aloud, reminiscing about their years together, simply holding his hand. Their children and grandchildren visited constantly, filling the house with love during what everyone knew would be Bennett's final weeks. "I am not afraid," Bennett told Amelia one afternoon when they were alone. "I have lived a full, wonderful life. You gave me everything I ever wanted and more than I ever deserved." "Stop that," Amelia said, tears streaming down her face. "You deserve everything good this world has to offer. You are the finest man I have ever known." "Then we are even," Bennett said with a weak smile. "Because you are the finest woman I have ever known. Promise me something, anything. Do not mourn too long. I know you will grieve, but do not let grief consume you. Keep teaching, keep loving the family, keep living. That is what I want for you." "I promise," Amelia whispered, though she could not imagine life without him. Bennett Nash died peacefully in his sleep 3 days later, Amelia holding his hand. He was 77 years old and had lived every one of those years with integrity, kindness, and love. The funeral drew people from across the county, testament to how many lives Bennett had touched. As Amelia sat listening to person after person share stories of his generosity and goodness, she realized she was not just burying her husband but celebrating a life well lived. Catherine spoke at the service, her voice strong despite her tears. "My brother taught me what it means to be truly good. Not perfect, but good. Kind without expecting anything in return. Strong without being harsh. Loving without being possessive. He showed all of us how to live with honor and compassion. We are better people for having known him." In the months after Bennett's death, Amelia struggled with grief more profound than she had imagined possible. But she remembered her promise and forced herself to keep living. She continued teaching Charlotte's children, advised William and Samuel on ranch matters, visited with her grandchildren, and maintained the routines that gave her days structure. One afternoon in spring, nearly a year after Bennett's passing, Amelia found herself standing on the train platform in Stockton. She had come to pick up a visiting grandchild, but as she stood there, she was transported back to that July day in 1883 when she had first arrived. She had been so broken then, so lost and hopeless. She had not believed she would ever feel whole again. And then a cowboy with kind eyes had asked if she was all right and offered to help. Bennett had kept his promise. He had mended her broken heart with time and care, and in doing so, he had given her everything. A home, a family, a purpose, and a love that had sustained her for 52 years. "Thank you," Amelia whispered to the sky, to Bennett's memory, to whatever providence had brought them together. "Thank you for every moment, every day, every year. Thank you for loving me so completely. I will carry that love with me always." The train pulled into the station, and Amelia's granddaughter Emma, Charlotte's eldest daughter, rushed into her arms. As they walked to the wagon together, Emma chattering about her journey, Amelia felt Bennett's presence like a warm hand on her shoulder. She would grieve him for the rest of her life, but she would also celebrate what they had built together. That was how she would honor his memory, by living fully just as he had taught her. Amelia Nash lived another 12 years, passing away peacefully at age 89 in 1948. She was surrounded by her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, all of whom had benefited from the love and wisdom she and Bennett had shared. At her funeral, Charlotte spoke of her mother's remarkable journey from heartbroken refugee to beloved matriarch. "My mother taught us that broken things can be mended, that endings can become beginnings, and that the worst moments of our lives can lead to the best chapters. She showed us what it means to be resilient, to choose love over bitterness, to build a legacy of kindness. She and my father together created something beautiful that will continue through all of us." Amelia was buried beside Bennett under the oak trees on the ranch they had built together. The headstone was simple: Amelia Drake Nash, 1859–1948. Beloved wife, mother, grandmother, she chose love. The Nash Ranch continues to this day, still operated by descendants of Bennett and Amelia. The love story of the cowboy and the heartbroken bride has been passed down through generations, told and retold to remind the family of where they came from and the values that built their legacy. In Stockton, the school Amelia founded still operates, now a charter school named Nash Academy in honor of both Amelia and Catherine's contributions to education in the region. A plaque in the entrance hall reads, "Founded on the principle that education should nurture both mind and heart, this school honors Amelia Drake Nash, who came west with a broken heart and stayed to heal countless others through the power of learning." Every July, on the anniversary of Amelia's arrival in Stockton, the family gathers at the ranch for a reunion. They tell stories of Bennett and Amelia, keeping their memory alive for new generations. The tale of how a desperate woman stepped off a train in 1883 and a kind cowboy offered to mend her broken heart has become legend in the family, a reminder that love and kindness can transform lives. The locket Bennett gave Amelia that first Christmas remains a family treasure, passed down to the eldest daughter of each generation. Inside, the pressed wildflower has long since crumbled to dust, but the meaning remains, that even in our darkest moments, hope can bloom if someone offers time and care. Bennett and Amelia's story is one of healing and hope, of second chances and true love. It reminds us that sometimes the worst things that happen to us clear the path for the best things to find us. It shows us that real love is patient, kind, and generous, asking nothing while giving everything. Most importantly, their story teaches that broken hearts can heal, that time and care really are powerful medicines, and that sometimes a stranger's kindness can change the entire trajectory of a life. From that first moment on the train platform to their final years together, Bennett and Amelia proved that love built on respect, friendship, and genuine care can weather any storm and create a legacy that lasts for generations. Their love story became part of California's history, a small thread in the larger tapestry of the American West. But for their descendants, and for everyone who heard their tale, it remained personal and powerful, proof that even in the hardest times, love can find a way. And so the story ends as it began, with a train station in Stockton, California. But instead of a broken-hearted woman stepping off alone and lost, we see generations of strong, loved, purposeful people who carry forward the legacy of kindness and love that Bennett and Amelia established. The train brought a bride with a broken heart, and a cowboy mended it with time and care, creating a love story for the ages.